Shalom, Shalom, and welcome to Psychology of the Parsha for Parshat, Chukat, and Ballak. We will focus on the Parsha of Balak. Who was this Balak? As described in the beginning of the Parsha, chapter 22 in the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, Balak was the king of Moab. Balak heard everything that happened and what the Jews had done, how they overran the countries of Sichon and Og, and of Sichon, that is, and how this powerful, mighty king who was supposed to be the gatekeeper for the entire civilization, not to allow the Jews to pass, and yet they just decimated him and just annihilated his army and just overtook his whole land. He's petrified. He's scared. What does he do? He calls on Bilam. Bilam is the prophet. Not only the prophet, although he was not Jewish, but according to many accounts, according to many opinions, he was on the level of Moshe. Yes, he was way up there. He was a tremendous prophet. Unfortunately, instead of utilizing his spiritual powers for good and for like his counterpart Moshe, who used it to bring good into the world, to bring teachings to not only the Jews, but by extension to the entire world and entire civilization for all times. What did he do? He used it for his corrupt motives, to gain himself honor, money, and to take revenge on the people he didn't like. Balak calls upon Bilam and invites him to come and curse the Jews, because he knows that Bilam is very powerful. He's got a spiritual power. And he says to him, whoever you curse is cursed. And he's already established this track record. Bilam has a history of cursing nations and they finding their defeat as a result. The end of the story, Bilam, as much as he desired and he couldn't wait to curse the Jews, but unfortunately for him, unfortunately for us, he ended up giving us the greatest blessings. In fact, the most tremendous blessings and prophecy of all time. Namely, the prophecy about the coming of Mashiach, the end of time, the resurrection of the dead, the glory of Am Yisrael, of our people, and the blissful utopian future of the utopia that will be after Mashiach comes. Question. We know the rule, as it says, Shem Rishaim Yirkav, the name of the wicked should rot, meaning it's inappropriate to name anyone after a wicked person. Even to mention the name of the wicked is inappropriate, as we have mentioned many times. I have a question for you. This Parsha is called Parshat Balak. Isn't Balak an anti-Semite? Isn't Balak one who hated the Jews, who wanted to do us harm? How do we name a Parsha after this man? And what is there to learn from this? What could we take from this? What can we glean from this and apply it to our lives on a practical level? And here's an interesting observation. You know the story with the guy who's waiting for his friend. He's standing outside a broadcasting studio, big radio station, thinking to himself, what's this guy thinking? He stutters. How's he going to get that broadcasting job? What is he doing at this interview? And after a half hour, his friend comes out and says, did you get the job? He goes, oh, no. Those anti-Semites, they realized I'm Jewish. They wouldn't hire me. You understand? It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. The guy stuttered. How can he be a broadcaster? How can he deliver the evening news or even be a DJ? The point is, not everybody that seems to want to do us harm is actually an anti-Semite. That may not be the motivation. In fact, what the Torah is teaching to us here is this Balak is a good person. Of course, it wouldn't have been good for us had he succeeded in getting us cursed. That wouldn't be good for us. But his motives, his intent, is something that we need to admire. In fact, even emulate. And that is, he is the king of Moab. Who does he need to care about? Who does he need to look out for? His people. He works for them. He serves them. And that is something to be admired. That is a virtue. Bilam, on the other hand, now he is the anti-Semite. We don't mention his name because Bilam, he was a prophet and he knew something, and all he needed to do was share that information and everything would have been resolved. What was Balak afraid of? What was Balak so scared of the Jews? Because he was afraid that they're coming his way. They're going to just steamroll right over his country and kill all his people and devastate his nation. Bilam knew the truth. Bilam knew that Hashem had instructed the Jewish people, Al tatzar et Moav. Do not even intimidate them. Don't bother them, leave them alone. The time has not come. All Bilam had to do was tell Balak, give me my consulting fee, however big it is, and I will guarantee you that they're never going to bother you. They're never coming after you. You know why they're never coming after you? Because they can't. That's not their purpose. You're not in the direction of their trip to Israel. But he didn't do that. He tried to utilize this as a means of gaining all the spotlight on him and making all that money and cursing the Jews as an excuse. But it didn't work. And this is a very important lesson. Balak happens to be also, for your information, happens to be the great-grandfather of Ruth, who is the grandmother of David HaMelech, King David. Thus, from Balak himself, biologically, his descendant will ultimately be the Mashiach. And that tells us that even from something bad, something which starts off as negative, can end up something very, very positive. Shabbat Shalom.